An innocent girl is forced into the CEO's bed by her family, but he never expected to see CEO fall in love. Liana, a young woman in her mid-20s, lives a life that could be described as humble, perhaps even modest by her family's standards. She's straightforward and kind, and has always kept her distance from her family's obsession with social standing. Growing up, she watched as her parents schemed and sacrificed, not for contentment, but for the kind of status and power they believed would make them truly successful. For years, Liana's kept her head down, staying out of the drama and quietly dreaming of a future that looks nothing like the one her parents envision. But her family's patience has run thin. Recently they've ramped up the pressure on her, convinced that she's the key to realizing their long-standing ambitions. Their plan? Get her close to Ryan, a powerful CEO in his late 30s, whose name carries weight and wealth, someone with the resources and influence they've always dreamed of. To Liana's family, Ryan isn't just a man, he's a golden ticket, the pathway to a life of privilege. They're certain that if she can connect with him, if she can make him notice her, they'll finally secure the social standing they've chased for so long. Liana, however, wants nothing to do with this plan. The thought of being pushed into someone's life, especially someone as untouchable as Ryan, feels wrong. It's not just about him being older or wealthy, it's the forced nature of it all. She spent her whole life avoiding these very situations, why should she now become her family's pawn? Yet, her family's expectations weigh heavily on her, and they've made it clear that refusing to go along with this would mean letting them down. Torn between her own discomfort and her family's relentless pressure, she reluctantly agrees to meet him, telling herself it will just be one brief encounter. She'll go get it over with, and hopefully satisfy her family enough to regain some peace. Ryan, meanwhile, is in a world all his own. He's built a business empire from the ground up, navigating the ruthless corridors of corporate life. At this point, Ryan is no stranger to people wanting something from him. In his mind, everyone has an angle and an agenda, and he's grown used to it. Emotions and attachments, in his experience, are distractions and liabilities that risk his success. He's guarded, arrogant, and deeply suspicious of anyone who tries to get close, assuming they're driven by personal gain. So, when he's introduced to Liana, a young woman clearly from a different world, he dismisses her instantly. She's probably, he thinks, just another person looking to get something from him. Their initial meeting is tense, to say the least. Liana feels out of place, acutely aware of Ryan's cool, detached demeanor. To him, she's just a pawn, a piece of a larger game. He's polite, even charming in a way, but there's a visible wall around him. He doesn't expect much from her, and makes it clear, through his mannerisms, that he's not one to be easily impressed. However, as he interacts with her, something unexpected happens. Ryan finds himself intrigued. In a world where everyone he encounters is driven by ambition or ulterior motives, Liana's innocence stands out. She doesn't flatter him or play the usual games. Instead, she's refreshingly straightforward, maybe even a little awkward. She seems genuine in a way he hasn't encountered in a long time, if ever. For Liana, the experience is equally baffling. She senses Ryan's skepticism and his guarded attitude, and it makes her uncomfortable, but she's also surprised by how human he seems beneath his exterior. She'd imagined a cold, unfeeling businessman, yet here he was, showing flickers of interest, perhaps even vulnerability. But Liana reminds herself why she's there: to satisfy her family. She didn't want this, didn't want to be here, and the more she interacts with him, the clearer it becomes that she's been thrust into a world where she doesn't belong. She tries to remain polite and keep her distance, but it's clear that both she and Ryan are surprised by the other's presence in a way they hadn't expected. Despite himself, Ryan begins to see her differently. He doesn't let down his guard, but he finds himself asking questions, watching her closely. There's something in her manner, an openness, that stands in stark contrast to the transactional relationships he's accustomed to. He doesn't know why he's drawn to her, and it frustrates him. He's used to controlling every aspect of his life, and yet here she is, disrupting that carefully maintained control. As Liana leaves their first meeting, she feels a confusing mix of relief and frustration. She hopes that she's done enough to satisfy her family, and that maybe this will be enough for them to back off. But deep down, she knows that this isn't over. Her family is too invested in the idea of her securing a future with Ryan, and she can already feel them tightening their hold, convinced that she just needs a little more pushing, a little more encouragement to seal the deal. Ryan, too, is left unsettled. He hadn't expected her to linger in his mind, yet he finds himself thinking about her, replaying their conversation, and wondering why someone so unassuming was affecting him. He tells himself it's just curiosity, a passing interest. But a small part of him, a part he's tried to ignore for years, wonders if there's more to her than he first assumed. So the stage is set. Liana, a young woman caught between her family's ambitions and her own discomfort, and Ryan, a man who never allows people past his walls, are both unexpectedly affected by a connection neither of them wants. Their worlds have collided, and while neither of them realizes it yet, this forced encounter will set off a chain of events that will change them both in ways they couldn't have anticipated. Ryan left that first meeting with Liana feeling something he hadn't expected: curiosity. He's met countless people, many of them trying to win his favor or work their way into his life for personal gain. But Liana? She was different. There was no attempt to flatter him, no rehearsed charm or games. She was just real. It was strange for him to feel interested in someone who wasn't in his world of high power and big deals. In fact, she didn't seem interested in his world at all. Back in his office, Ryan can't shake her image from his mind. He tries to bury himself in work, telling himself it is just a minor distraction. But his thoughts keep drifting back. Why did she seem so genuine? What was it about her that had him second-guessing? He laughs at himself, brushing it off as nothing more than mild curiosity. After all, she's just some small-town girl his family connected him with. There's no reason to think any deeper about it, right? But Liana's sincerity has left a mark on him. She wasn't trying to impress him, wasn't hiding anything, at least as far as he could tell. That's a rarity in his world, a world full of people who wear masks, showing him only what they think he wants to see. But Liana was raw and straightforward, and for someone like Ryan, who's used to layers of deception, that alone was enough to make him stop and wonder. Meanwhile, Liana has her own thoughts to sort out. She didn't want to go to that meeting, and now that it's over, she feels relieved. But there's something else, too, a strange sense of unfinished business. Ryan was different from what she expected. She thought he'd be cold, maybe even arrogant. And while he definitely had an air of distance, there was a certain vulnerability in him she hadn't anticipated. He wasn't the pure villain she imagined, and that makes her curious. But as soon as that thought enters her mind, she shakes her head, reminding herself that this isn't something she wants to pursue. Her family may be invested in Ryan's wealth and power, but she's not. However, her family has other plans. The very next day, they bombard her with questions. How did it go? Did he like you? What did he say? Liana tries to answer as simply as possible, downplaying the meeting, hoping to discourage their excitement. But it's clear that they're already planning the next steps, fully convinced that this connection could be their ticket to the lifestyle they've always wanted. In the meantime, Ryan finds himself becoming more and more curious about Liana. He begins casually asking his assistants about her, subtly digging into her background. He tells himself it's just to understand her a bit better since they might be crossing paths again, but deep down, he knows it's more than that. There's something about her sincerity, her unpolished, honest nature, that feels like a breath of fresh air in his otherwise stale, predictable life. Days pass, and Ryan's curiosity only grows. He decides to reach out, casually inviting Liana to meet him again, under the pretense of discussing something related to his business. When she gets his invitation, she's taken aback. Why would he want to meet her again? Part of her feels like declining, avoiding the pressure from her family, and the potential heartbreak that could come from getting tangled in his world. But another part of her, one she doesn't quite understand, feels drawn to him. There's something about his complex, distant nature that makes her want to know him better, even if she doesn't fully trust him. Reluctantly, she agrees to the second meeting, and once again finds herself face to face with Ryan, feeling as if she's stepping into an unfamiliar territory. Ryan is more relaxed this time, which catches her off guard. He actually seems interested in her, in a way she hadn't expected. They talk, and for the first time, he lets his guard down just a little. He asks her about her life, her family, and her dreams, things he never usually cares to ask about. It's clear he's trying to understand what makes her so different from everyone else he knows. Liana answers honestly, telling him about her modest upbringing and her family's endless chase for status. She mentions, almost reluctantly, how they're always trying to push her into connections that could benefit them. There's a slight hesitation as she says it, as if she's revealing something too personal, but Ryan catches it. He's intrigued by her honesty, realizing that she's not just a pawn for her family, she's her own person, struggling against their expectations just like he is. This small moment of vulnerability deepens his curiosity, making him wonder if perhaps she's exactly what he's been missing all along. Here is someone who's real, someone who's not impressed by his wealth or status, someone who has her own battles to fight. For the first time, he feels a hint of something that goes beyond business, beyond convenience. But he quickly brushes that feeling aside, reminding himself of the risks of getting too close. Their conversation continues, and Ryan, almost unconsciously, starts letting her see the man beneath the CEO facade. He shares a story from his childhood, something he hasn't thought about in years, something he never shares. It's a small detail, a story about how he used to work tirelessly to prove himself, even as a kid, never feeling like he was enough. Liana listens intently, her eyes softening, and for the first time, Ryan feels truly seen. But just as quickly as he opened up, he pulled back, covering his vulnerability with a casual, almost dismissive tone. He thanks her for her time and mentions that he'll see her around. Liana feels a pang of disappointment but tells herself it's for the best. This is just a temporary connection, nothing more, she reminds herself. Yet both of them walk away from that meeting with a feeling they can't quite shake, a sense that something has shifted, something they weren't prepared for. As the days pass, they both find themselves thinking about each other. Ryan tries to push her out of his mind, telling himself she's just a distraction, an intriguing puzzle he doesn't need to solve. But deep down, he knows it's more than that. Liana, too, finds herself thinking about him, wondering if there's a side of him no one else sees, a side he doesn't even see himself. She doesn't want to admit it, but part of her hopes is that he'll reach out again, that maybe there's something worth exploring beneath his guarded exterior. Both of them, though unaware of it, are being pulled into a connection they didn't choose, but can't ignore. Their lives, filled with pressure, expectations, and unspoken desires, are slowly intertwining in ways neither of them could have predicted. And with each passing day, the boundaries between them, between duty and choice, caution and curiosity, are blurring. They're both on the edge of something new, something unpredictable, and while they may try to resist, it's becoming clearer with every encounter. This is a connection that won't easily fade. Liana thought that maybe the second meeting with Ryan would satisfy her family's obsession, that maybe they'd let her live in peace for a while. But she couldn't have been more wrong. If anything, her family's pressure has only increased. They're relentless, constantly reminding her how much is riding on this connection. Every day, it's the same questions and hopeful glances. Did Ryan mention anything about seeing you again? Did he show any interest in your life? Her family isn't interested in the small details of how she feels about this. All they care about is securing that connection with Ryan. In their minds, if Liana can win his favor, it's the golden ticket they've been waiting for. They push her to be more charming, to find ways to impress him, completely ignoring the fact that she's uncomfortable and feels trapped by their expectations. She's beginning to see just how far they're willing to go to reach their goal, and it's unsettling. For Liana, this isn't about love or friendship, it's about satisfying her family's desires for wealth and status. And though she hates being a pawn in their game, she also feels the weight of their expectations. Every time she tries to pull back, they remind her of all the sacrifices they've made for her, and how they've always wanted the best for her. The guilt they lay on her shoulders is heavy, making her feel like she owes them, like this is her responsibility. Crosstown, Ryan has no idea the pressure Liana is under. For him, this connection with her is becoming interesting. He finds himself wanting to know more about her, but he's still unsure of her motives. In his mind, it's possible that she's just like everyone else. Maybe her family wants something from him. After all, people usually have hidden agendas when they come into their lives. It's a thought that keeps him guarded and cautious. But at the same time, he can't shake his curiosity. There's something about her that's different, that feels honest. It's around this time that Ryan's cousin, Alex, starts to take notice of Liana. Alex has always been competitive, always looking for ways to stay in Ryan's favor, and he quickly becomes suspicious of this new connection. To Alex, anyone new around Ryan represents a threat, especially someone as unconnected to their world as Liana. He starts to keep a close eye on their interactions, watching for any sign that she might be winning Ryan's trust or attention. Alex is quick to see what's going on. He senses Ryan's interest in Liana, and that's all the motivation he needs to interfere. He begins to plant small seeds of doubt in Ryan's mind, dropping subtle comments about how people from humble backgrounds often have big dreams, or how some people know how to play innocent very well. Alex is sly, careful not to overdo it, but his comments are enough to keep Ryan on edge, enough to remind him of all the times he's been manipulated or used in the past. Meanwhile, Liana is feeling increasingly torn. On one hand, she doesn't want anything from Ryan. She doesn't want to be a part of his world or his family drama. But on the other hand, there's a part of her that's undeniably drawn to him. She can't deny the strange connection between them. The way he seems to look at her as though she's someone worth figuring out. It's confusing and frustrating, and her family's constant pressure only makes things worse. As days go by, Alex's suspicions grow, and he decides it's time to take action. He begins spreading rumors about Liana, carefully crafting stories about her background, her family, and her possible intentions. He makes it sound like she's only interested in Ryan for his money and status, that she's a social climber who's cleverly hiding her ambition behind a mask of innocence. Alex knows exactly what he's doing. He knows Ryan well enough to understand that he hates feeling used or manipulated, and these rumors are perfectly designed to make him doubt Liana. At first, Ryan brushes off the rumors, choosing to rely on his own judgment, but the more he hears, the harder it becomes to ignore. Doubts start creeping in, slowly chipping away at his growing feelings for her. He begins questioning himself, wondering if he's been blinded by her sincerity, if he's fallen into a trap that he didn't even see coming. Each time he thinks about her, the words Alex planted in his mind surface, making him feel foolish and vulnerable. Liana, of course, is unaware of all this. She has no idea that Alex is spreading lies about her or that Ryan's view of her is beginning to shift. All she knows is that he's starting to act distant. When they see each other, his warm curiosity has been replaced by a guarded, almost cold demeanor. The conversations that once felt natural and open now feel strained, full of awkward pauses and polite distance. She can sense the change, and it confuses her. She can't understand why he's suddenly pulling back, why he seems to be putting up walls where none existed before. The emotional toll on Liana is heavy. She feels hurt, wondering if she did something wrong and if she somehow pushed him away without realizing it. She tries to talk to her family about it, hoping they'll understand her frustration, but their response only makes things worse. They brush off her concerns, telling her to stay focused, to try harder, to not let a small misunderstanding ruin everything they've been working toward. They don't see her pain or her confusion. They only see the opportunity slipping away. Ryan, meanwhile, is at war with himself. He doesn't know whether to trust his own instincts or the words of those around him. Part of him still feels that Liana is different, that she's genuine, but the constant reminders of his past betrayals make him wary. He wants to believe in her, but he's terrified of being hurt, of opening up only to be let down. His heart and mind are at odds, each pulling him in a different direction, leaving him unsure of what to do. As tension builds, both Liana and Ryan find themselves standing at a crossroads. For Liana, the choice is between continuing down this uncertain path or pulling back to protect herself. For Ryan, it's a question of trust, of deciding whether he's willing to take a risk on someone who might or might not have good intentions. Neither of them knows what the future holds, but both can feel the weight of their choices, the sense that whatever they decide will shape the course of their lives in ways they can't yet see. And all the while, Alex watches from the sidelines, quietly pleased with his handiwork. He believes he succeeded in driving a wedge between them, that his interference has put an end to whatever might have developed. But what he doesn't realize is that the connection between Ryan and Liana is deeper than he anticipated. Despite the distance and the rumors, despite all the doubts, there's something between them that refuses to be silenced. It's a spark, a pull, a connection that's as fragile as it is unbreakable. Both Ryan and Liana are about to face choices that will test them in ways they never expected. Choices that will reveal who they truly are, to each other and to themselves. And while they don't know it yet, this is only the beginning of a journey that will either tear them apart or bring them closer than they ever imagined. Despite all the doubts and confusion, something keeps pulling Ryan back to thoughts of Liana. He's tried to ignore it, tried to tell himself she's just another person with a persona, maybe even a clever one who's fooled him into thinking she's genuine. But there's something about her that he can't forget, no matter how hard he tries. Every time he remembers the small, sincere moments they shared, he finds himself questioning all the rumors and warnings he's heard. Ryan's used to handling everything with logic and control. In his world, emotions are distractions that can make you vulnerable, and vulnerability is something he's spent his whole life avoiding. But with Liana, he feels his carefully built walls cracking just a little, and that scares him more than he'd like to admit. Still, he finds himself wondering if he's letting fear get in the way, if maybe there's more to her than he's been told to believe. Liana, on the other hand, feels completely lost. She thought she understood where she stood with Ryan, but ever since he started acting distant, she's been filled with doubt. Part of her feels like walking away, putting an end to this confusing mess, and finding peace. But another part of her feels drawn to him in a way she can't fully explain. There's something about him that feels real, even when he's cold and guarded as if beneath the surface. He's struggling just as much as she is. When Ryan reaches out again, asking to meet up for coffee, Liana feels a rush of mixed emotions. She's nervous, unsure of where things stand, but she also feels a flicker of hope. Maybe this is his way of explaining his recent behavior, or maybe it's just one last attempt to clear the air. Either way, she agrees, wanting at least a chance to understand what's been going on. At their meeting, there's an awkward silence at first, both of them unsure how to begin. Ryan breaks the silence by asking her a simple question: "Why are you here, Liana?" It's a question that catches her off guard. And she can see in his eyes that he's searching for something. Maybe a reason to believe in her. She takes a deep breath, deciding to be honest. "I'm here because I feel something when I'm with you. And it's confusing because I didn't want any of this," she admits. "My family, they have all these expectations, and I don't even know if I want the same things they do. But I didn't want to disappoint them either." Her words hang in the air, and Ryan feels a pang of understanding. He knows what it's like to feel trapped by expectations, to feel like you're living for someone else's approval. For a moment, he sees himself in a version of himself from years ago, struggling to prove something to his own family. He nods, understanding more than she realizes. "I know what that's like," he replies quietly. "To feel like you're always being pushed, like you don't have a choice. It's exhausting." There's a vulnerability in his voice that surprises even him. He hadn't planned to share this part of himself, but somehow with Liana, it feels safe. As they talk, the walls between them begin to crumble, piece by piece. Ryan finds himself opening up, telling her things he's never told anyone. He talks about his struggles in the business world, the constant pressure, and the loneliness that comes with it. And as he speaks, Liana listens, really listens, without judgment or hidden motives. For once, he feels like he's not being analyzed or assessed, he's just being heard. The conversation flows naturally, with moments of laughter and honesty that neither of them expected. At one point, Liana jokingly teases him about his tough CEO act, and Ryan can't help but laugh, realizing how ridiculous it must seem from her perspective. She brings out a side of him he didn't know he had, a side that's willing to let go of the facade, if only for a moment. But just as things are starting to feel comfortable, Ryan's doubts creep back in. He remembers the rumors, the warnings, and all the reasons he should be careful. The walls he'd let down start to rise again, and he tries to cover it up with a polite but distant tone. Liana notices the shift, sensing that he's retreating again, and she feels a wave of disappointment. As they say goodbye, both of them are left with lingering feelings of confusion. Ryan can feel his heart pulling him one way, while his mind tries to pull him back to safety. He wants to believe in Liana, but the fear of being hurt, of being used, is overwhelming. So he's not ready to let his guard down completely, not yet. Liana, on the other hand, walks away feeling frustrated and hurt. She feels like they made real progress, that he let her see a glimpse of the real him, only to shut her out again. It's a pattern she's starting to notice, one that makes her wonder if he'll ever fully trust her. She doesn't want to keep going back and forth, feeling close to him one moment, and shut out the next. She knows she deserves more than that, but a part of her still holds on, hoping that he'll find a way to trust her. For the next few days they both try to carry on with their lives, but the memories of that conversation linger. Ryan can't get her out of his mind, no matter how hard he tries. He replays their conversation over and over, thinking about the way she looked at him, the way she listened. He hasn't felt this connection in years, and he's torn between the thrill of it and the fear it brings. Liana, meanwhile, feels the same conflict. She wants to move on, to let go of this confusing, uncertain connection, but she can't. She keeps thinking about the way he opened up, the vulnerability he showed, even if it was brief. It's enough to give her hope, even if she's afraid of being hurt in the process. As they both wrestle with these feelings, their lives start to change in subtle ways. Ryan becomes a bit more open, showing glimpses of warmth and humor to those around him, though he'd never admit it's because of Liana. Liana, too, begins to stand up to her family, gently pushing back on their constant pressure. She's beginning to realize that she has a voice, that she doesn't have to follow their every command. It's as if their connection, uncertain as it may be, is helping them both grow in ways they didn't expect. But lurking in the background, Alex watches their every move. He sees the changes in Ryan, the softening around the edges, and it fuels his jealousy and resentment. To Alex, Liana represents a threat not just to his plans, but to the control he's always had over Ryan. He's determined to put an end to this, to make sure that Liana never gets close enough to truly influence Ryan. As the days go by, the tension builds, with both Liana and Ryan feeling the weight of unspoken words, of doubts and desires they're too afraid to voice. And as Alex's schemes intensify, they're about to face a choice that will test them both, whether to hold on to their fears or to take a risk on something real. They're on the edge of a decision that could change everything, but neither of them knows what lies ahead. All they know is that this connection, fragile and uncertain, is growing stronger, pulling them toward a future they can't predict but can't ignore. As Ryan and Liana's connection grows, so does Alex's determination to tear it apart. He's never liked sharing the spotlight with anyone, especially not someone like Liana, who he views as unworthy of Ryan's attention. In his mind, Liana is a nobody, someone from a lower class who doesn't belong in their world. To Alex, she's nothing more than an obstacle in his plans to keep control of the family's power and wealth. Alex knows Ryan well enough to understand his weaknesses, one of them being his deep fear of betrayal. Ryan has been hurt in the past by people pretending to be something they're not, and Alex is more than willing to use that fear against him. So he starts crafting a story, one that makes Liana look suspicious, like she's hiding secrets and waiting for the right moment to strike. He makes sure these rumors reach Ryan, spreading them subtly through people he knows Ryan trusts. The rumors begin quietly, at first just whispers, hints that maybe Liana isn't as she seems. Alex knows exactly how to plant the seed, saying things like, people from humble backgrounds often know how to play the innocent role very well. Or, it's interesting how quickly she's captured your attention, don't you think? These words are enough to make Ryan start questioning himself and doubting his own judgment. At first, Ryan tries to ignore it. He doesn't want to believe that Liana, with her honesty and sincerity, could be hiding anything. He remembers all the small, genuine moments they've shared, the vulnerability in her voice when she spoke about her family and her struggles. But the doubts are there, nagging at him, reminding him of every time he's let someone in and gotten hurt. The more he tries to ignore the rumors, the louder they seem to grow, echoing in his mind. Liana, of course, has no idea that Alex is spreading lies about her. All she knows is that Ryan seems distant again, his behavior cold and guarded like it was when they first met. Every time they talk, there's a tension, an awkwardness she can't understand. She can see the doubt in his eyes, the way he looks at her like he's questioning every word she says. It's as if he's searching for something, waiting for her to slip up and reveal some hidden agenda. It hurts her deeply because she thought they were past this. On one evening, after a long day, Ryan invites Liana to his office to talk. She's nervous, feeling like something's off, but she goes anyway, hoping they can clear the air. When she arrives, Ryan is standing by the window, looking out with an expression she can't quite read. He turns to her, his face serious, and without much preamble he asks, "Liana, are you being honest with me?" The question hits her like a slap. She's shocked, caught off guard, and for a moment, all she can do is stare at him. "What do you mean?" She finally manages, her voice barely above a whisper. "I've heard things about you, about your intentions," he says, his voice cold and distant. "People have been saying that you're not as innocent as you seem, that you have your own reasons for being here." Liana feels a surge of hurt and frustration. She can't believe what she's hearing, that he's doubting her, that he's even considering the possibility that she might be deceiving him. "Ryan, I don't know what you've heard, but I can promise you, it's not true. I'm not here to use you or to manipulate you. I didn't even want to be here in the first place." Her voice is shaking, both from anger and from the pain of being accused. But Ryan's expression doesn't soften. The doubt is too strong, the rumors too persistent, and he's not sure if he can trust his own feelings anymore. "How can I be sure of that, Liana? How can I know you're not just saying what you think I want to hear?" At that moment, Liana realizes just how deep his walls are, and how hard it is for him to truly trust someone. She feels a wave of sadness, knowing that he might never see her for who she really is, that he might always be looking for a hidden motive. But she also feels a surge of determination. She's not going to let him push her away, not without a fight. "Ryan, I'm here because I care about you," she says softly. "I don't know why or how, but I do. And if you can't see that, if you can't believe in me even a little, then maybe this was all a mistake." Her words are calm, but there's a finality in her tone that makes Ryan pause. He doesn't know what to say, and for a long moment, they just stare at each other, both feeling the weight of everything unsaid. Liana could feel the tears prickling in her eyes, but she blinked them away, refusing to let him see her break down. She's stronger than that. She turns to leave, her heart heavy with disappointment, but as she reaches the door, she hears him speak, his voice barely audible. "Liana, wait." She stops, turning slowly, and sees a flicker of regret in his eyes, as if he's struggling against the doubt and the fear that's been eating away at him. He doesn't say anything more, but the look on his face is enough to make her hesitate. There's something there, something real, something that he can't hide, no matter how hard he tries. But before either of them can say another word, there's a knock on the door, and Alex walks in, acting surprised to see Liana there. He greets her with a fake smile, his eyes filled with smug satisfaction, and she immediately feels a chill run down her spine. She doesn't know what he's been saying behind her back, but she can tell from his expression that he's not on her side. Ryan's face shifts as well, his guard going up again, and Liana realizes that whatever progress they might have made has just been undone. She gives Ryan one last, searching look, then turns and walks out of the office, leaving him with Alex, her heart breaking a little more with each step. As she leaves, Alex watches her go, a small smirk playing on his lips. He's pleased with himself, convinced that he succeeded in driving a wedge between them. In his mind, he's won, and he's more than happy to keep fanning the flames of doubt until there's nothing left between Ryan and Liana. But what he doesn't realize is that his interference has sparked something in Ryan, a sense of frustration, even anger, that he hadn't expected. Ryan knows he has trust issues, and knows that his own fears have held him back from truly opening up to anyone. And now, watching Liana walk away, He can't shake the feeling that he's making a mistake, that maybe he's letting his fears control him too much. As the door closes behind her, he's left standing in silence, his heart and mind in turmoil. For the first time, he's forced to confront the possibility that he's pushing away someone who genuinely cares about him, that his doubts and fears might cost him something real. As Alex continues his quiet, smug monologue, Ryan begins to see him in a new light, a light that's far from friendly. Something has shifted, a new tension that Alex may not even realize he's created. For Ryan, this could be the beginning of a choice he didn't expect to face, a choice between staying in a safe, lonely world or taking a risk on someone who might just be worth it. After the tension-filled meeting in Ryan's office, Liana tries to focus on her own life. She's tired of being hurt, tired of feeling like she's constantly walking on thin ice with him. But even as she tries to let it go, her heart refuses to forget. She keeps thinking about him, about the connection they shared, and how quickly it seemed to vanish in the face of rumors and doubt. Deep down, she wishes he could see past his fears and trust her. At home, things are only getting worse. Her family senses the distance between her and Ryan, and they're far from pleased. Every time she tries to bring it up, they push harder, reminding her of the opportunity she's letting slip through her fingers. Her mother's words sting the most. Do you know how many people would kill for a chance like this? You need to put in the effort, Liana. Don't throw it all away because of a few misunderstandings. Liana feels like she's trapped, with pressure coming from all sides. Her family wants her to keep trying with Ryan, even if it means ignoring her own happiness, while her heart aches from the coldness he's shown. But she doesn't know how much longer she can keep doing this, pretending to be fine, pretending she's okay with being treated like a pawn in their schemes. Meanwhile, Ryan is struggling just as much. Despite all the warnings, despite everything Alex has told him, he can't stop thinking about Liana. He tries to bury himself in work, to distract himself with meetings and deals, but she's always there in the back of his mind. He keeps replaying their conversations, the way she looks at him, the warmth in her eyes that he's starting to miss. But then there's Alex, always ready with another warning, another reason why he shouldn't trust her. Alex seems to sense every time Ryan starts to soften, and he's quick to remind him of all the ways people have betrayed him in the past. People can be very good at pretending, Ryan, he says, his voice full of concern. I'm just looking out for you. You can't let your guard down, not in our world. Ryan tries to listen and tries to convince himself that Alex is right and that he should stay guarded. But deep down, something feels wrong. Every time Alex warns him about Liana, he can't help but wonder if he's being manipulated. There's a small voice in the back of his mind, a feeling he can't shake, telling him that maybe, just maybe, he's pushing away something real. As days pass, Ryan's family starts to weigh in on the situation as well. His mother, especially, has her own opinions about Liana, and she doesn't hesitate to share them. She's never approved of him associating with people from different backgrounds, people who, in her eyes, are only interested in what he can offer. Ryan, darling, you have to think of the family's reputation, she says, her tone laced with thinly veiled disapproval. People like her, they don't understand our world. They can't be trusted. Ryan feels torn. On one hand, he respects his family and values their opinions, but on the other, he's beginning to realize how closed off they are, and how much they judge people based on status and appearances. For the first time, he sees his family's expectations for what they truly are, a cage, a set of rules that have kept him isolated, and prevented him from letting anyone get too close. And now, with Liana, he feels the weight of that cage more than ever. Despite the doubts and the warnings, Ryan reaches a breaking point. He decides to visit Liana, needing to see her one more time, to talk things through without the voices of his family or Alex in his ear. He finds himself at her doorstep, unannounced, feeling a mix of nerves and determination. When she opens the door and sees him standing there, she's clearly surprised, and he can sense the hesitation in her eyes. He takes a deep breath, knowing this might be his only chance to make things right. Liana, he starts, his voice softer than usual. I'm sorry. I know I've been difficult. And I know I've hurt you, but I need to understand, I need to know if there's still something real between us. Liana looks at him, her expression a mixture of hope and uncertainty. She wants to believe in him, but the pain of his past actions holds her back. Ryan, I don't know if I can keep going through this back and forth. One moment you're close, the next you're distant. I don't want to keep feeling like I'm being tested or judged. He nods, understanding the frustration in her voice. He knows he's been pulling away, that his own fears have kept him from truly opening up. I know. And it's my fault. I've spent so long being guarded, being afraid that I'd get hurt, that I pushed everyone away. But with you, I can't seem to let go, no matter how hard I try, and that scares me. Liana listens, her heart softening as she hears the honesty in his words. For the first time, she sees a side of him that's vulnerable, a side that's willing to admit his own fears. She realizes that he's just as scared as she is, that his distance hasn't been about her, but about his own battle with trust. Ryan, I'm here because I care about you, she says gently. But I can't keep doing this if you're going to keep shutting me out every time things get hard. I need to know that you're willing to let me in, to trust me. He nods, his face filled with a mix of relief and determination. I want to, Liana. I really do, I just need time, but I promise I'll try. I don't want to lose this. I don't want to lose you. They stand there in silence for a moment, both feeling the weight of everything that's happened, the misunderstandings, the doubts, and the connection that refuses to fade. In that quiet space, they both realize that despite all the obstacles, there's something real between them, something worth fighting for. As they part ways, both feel a sense of hope they hadn't felt before. It's not a perfect resolution, and they know there's a long way to go, but there's a promise now, a promise to try, to push past the fears and see where this journey leads. But the moment is short-lived. When Ryan returns home, he's met by Alex, who's already heard about his visit to Liana. Alex doesn't waste time, immediately trying to plant more seeds of doubt, making subtle comments about how people from her world can be very convincing, and how he should be careful not to get too attached. This time, however, Ryan doesn't listen as easily. He feels a spark of anger, a protective instinct he didn't know he had, and for the first time, he starts to see Alex's true motives. He realizes that maybe Alex isn't just looking out for him. Maybe he's been trying to control him, to keep him isolated and dependent on his advice. And with this realization comes a new strength, a determination to make his own choices, to decide for himself whether or not to trust Liana. In that moment, Ryan feels a shift, a sense of clarity that's been missing all along. He knows now that he's at a crossroads, that he can either let his family and Alex dictate his life, or he can take a leap of faith and follow his heart. It's a choice that scares him, but for the first time he feels ready to make it. Liana, too, feels a change within herself. She's finally beginning to push back against her family's expectations, realizing that she deserves to live her own life, not just the life they want for her. She knows that choosing Ryan won't be easy, but she's willing to try, as long as he's willing to meet her halfway. As both of them prepare to face the challenges ahead, they're no longer driven by fear, but by a quiet hope, maybe, just maybe, they can build something real together. Just as Ryan and Liana start to find some clarity, life throws a curveball neither of them could have predicted. One evening, Liana is heading home from work, her mind racing with thoughts of Ryan. She's been struggling to balance her family's expectations, her own feelings, and her budding hope that Ryan might finally trust her. She's so lost in thought that she barely notices the car speeding down the road, swerving out of control. In an instant, everything changes. The car veers off course, heading straight toward her. Liana tries to move, but it's too late. She feels a sharp pain and then everything goes black. Ryan is sitting in his office when he gets the call. At first he can't believe what he's hearing. The person on the other end is explaining that Liana's been in an accident, that she's in the hospital, and in serious condition. As he processes the news, a wave of emotions hits him: fear, worry, and a sense of guilt that he can't shake. All he can think about is how he's treated her, the doubts he's let creep in, and the pain he's caused her by pushing her away. Without a second thought, he leaves his office and rushes to the hospital, his mind racing with memories of their time together. He remembers the way she looked at him, her quiet strength, and how she always seemed to believe in him, even when he doubted her. And now, as he speeds toward the hospital, he's terrified that he might lose her without ever having the chance to make things right. When he arrives, he finds her family already there, along with doctors and nurses moving in and out of her room. He feels his heart sink as he sees her lying in the hospital bed, pale and motionless. The sight of her like this, so vulnerable, breaks down every wall he's ever put up. For the first time, he realizes just how much she means to him, how much he's been lying to himself by pretending he didn't care. He approaches her bed, feeling an overwhelming urge to protect her, to be there for her in a way he hasn't been before. He reaches for her hand, holding it gently, and whispers, "I'm here, Liana. I'm not going anywhere." His voice is filled with a mix of fear and love, emotions he's never allowed himself to feel this deeply. Meanwhile, her family is watching him closely, some of them unsure of his presence, while others are grateful that he's there. For them, Ryan's arrival is a sign of his commitment, proof that he cares about Liana more than he's let on. But for Ryan, none of that matters. All he cares about is Liana and making sure she knows she's not alone. Hours pass, and finally, Liana begins to stir. Her eyes open slowly, and she blinks as she tries to focus. When she sees Ryan sitting beside her, a mixture of surprise and relief washes over her face. She can't believe he's here, holding her hand, looking at her with a depth of emotion she's never seen before. "Ryan, you're here," she whispers, her voice weak. He nods, his eyes filled with relief and something else, something softer, more vulnerable. "I'm here, Liana, and I'm sorry. For everything, for doubting you, for letting my fears get in the way. I should have trusted you." Liana feels tears prickle at the corners of her eyes, but she manages a small smile. Despite everything they've been through, hearing those words from him means more than he'll ever know. She squeezes his hand gently, letting him know that she forgives him, that she understands. As they sit together in the quiet of the hospital room, both of them realize that this moment is a turning point. For Ryan, it's a chance to let go of his fears, to finally embrace the feelings he's been trying to deny. For Liana, it's proof that Ryan cares, that he's willing to be there for her, even when things get hard. But just as things start to settle, Alex shows up at the hospital. He's not happy to see Ryan so close to Liana, and he doesn't hide his frustration. Pulling Ryan aside, he tries once again to plant seeds of doubt, saying things like, "Don't let her vulnerability cloud your judgment, Ryan. She knows exactly how to play this situation. Just remember, people will do anything when they see a chance to climb." This time though, Ryan doesn't listen. He's tired of Alex's manipulations, tired of being told how to think and feel. For the first time, he sees Alex for who he truly is, someone who's more interested in keeping control than in Ryan's happiness. And at that moment, Ryan decides he's done letting others influence his decisions. He's going to follow his heart, and his heart is with Liana. He turns to Alex, his voice steady and resolute. "Enough, Alex. I don't need you telling me what to think or feel. I know what I want, and I'm not going to let you or anyone else get in the way." Alex's face twists in surprise and anger. But Ryan doesn't back down. He's finally made his choice, and there's no turning back. He returns to Liana's side, feeling a sense of peace and certainty that he hasn't felt in a long time. As he sits beside her, Liana senses the change in him. She can see it in his eyes, in the way he holds her hand, in the quiet strength that radiates from him. She knows that he's chosen her, that he's willing to stand by her no matter what, and for the first time, she feels like she can trust him completely. Over the next few days, Ryan is at the hospital as often as he can be, helping Liana through her recovery and standing up to anyone who tries to question his choice. He's no longer hiding behind walls of doubt and fear. Instead, he's embracing the possibility of a future with her. He knows it won't be easy, and that there will be challenges ahead, but he's ready to face them. For Liana, this accident has been a painful but necessary wake-up call. She's realized that life is too short to let others dictate her choices, and that she has the right to follow her heart, even if it means going against her family's expectations. She's finally ready to stand up for herself, to choose her own happiness over their ambitions. In the quiet moments, as they talk and laugh and share their hopes and fears, both Ryan and Liana feel a sense of freedom they haven't known before. They're no longer bound by fear or doubt, no longer held back by the expectations of others. They're choosing each other, for no other reason than that it feels right, that it feels real. But they know this isn't the end of their journey. There are still obstacles to face, still people who will try to tear them apart. Yet for the first time they feel ready to face it all together, to build a future based on trust, respect, and a love that has grown stronger through every trial they've faced. As they sit together, hand in hand, they both know that this is just the beginning of something beautiful, something worth fighting for. And no matter what challenges lie ahead, they're ready to take them on, one step at a time together. After the accident, Ryan and Liana both feel a renewed sense of purpose. They've come to a place where they can finally be honest with each other, and it feels like they're stronger than ever. But there's one last battle they both need to face: their families. For Liana, it's her own family who's been controlling her life, treating her like a means to an end rather than her own person. They see her connection with Ryan as their ticket to wealth and status, something they've been chasing for years. They're thrilled when they hear Ryan has been spending time with her, visiting her in the hospital, and showing signs of commitment. To them, this is exactly what they wanted, and they waste no time making their next moves. As soon as Liana is discharged from the hospital, her family insists on meeting with her. They talk in a hurried, excited way, already planning a future for her that includes every luxury they've ever dreamed of. They even start asking her about when she and Ryan might get engaged, discussing her future, as if it's a business deal rather than a relationship. Liana can feel the pressure mounting, and for the first time, she feels a strong urge to push back. "Mom, Dad," she says, her voice calm but firm, "this isn't your decision to make. My relationship with Ryan. It's not about what you want, or what you think I should do. This is my life. And if I stay with him, it'll be because I care about him, not because of some plan to make our family look good." Her parents exchange shocked glances. They're not used to Liana standing up for herself like this. Her mother tries to reason with her, saying, "Liana, we just want what's best for you. Think about the life you could have. The opportunities, the comfort. Don't throw this away." But Liana shakes her head, her resolve unwavering. "No, Mom, I appreciate everything you've done for me, but I'm not a pawn. I'm not here to fulfill your dreams. I have my own dreams, my own choices, and I won't let anyone take that from me." It's a difficult conversation, one filled with tension and hurt feelings, but Liana feels a sense of freedom she's never known. She's finally putting herself first, refusing to let anyone control her decisions. And for the first time she feels a quiet strength within her, a certainty that she's doing the right thing. Her family may not understand, but she knows she's choosing a path that's true to her heart. Meanwhile, Ryan is facing his own battle. Alex, who's grown increasingly frustrated with Ryan's loyalty to Liana, decides to make one last attempt to interfere. He gathers their family, bringing up every reason why Liana is unsuitable for Ryan, painting her as a social climber and a distraction from his responsibilities. Alex argues that Ryan's connection with her is reckless, and that it's putting the family's reputation at risk. Ryan listens in silence as Alex goes on, feeling the familiar weight of family expectations pressing down on him. He spent his whole life meeting these expectations, making choices that kept his family happy, and staying in line to keep everything respectable. But now, with Liana in his life, he realizes that he doesn't want to keep living in this cage. He doesn't want to give up on something real just to satisfy his family's outdated standards. Finally, Ryan stands up, his expression calm but resolute. "I'm done, Alex," he says, his voice steady. "I'm done letting you and everyone else decide what's right for me. I've lived my life according to everyone else's expectations, and all it's done is keep me alone and unhappy." Alex scoffs, shaking his head. "Ryan, don't be foolish. She's just using you. People like her. They know exactly how to get what they want. You can't let yourself be blinded by emotions." But Ryan's had enough. He meets Alex's gaze unflinching. "No, Alex, you're wrong. She's the most honest person I've met. And maybe it's time I started trusting my own feelings instead of everyone else's opinions." His words are like a shockwave through the room. For the first time, his family sees him standing up for himself, choosing his own path instead of theirs. Some look surprised, others disappointed, but Ryan doesn't care. He feels lighter, as if he's finally taken control of his own life, ready to build something real, not for them but for himself, and for Liana. As he leaves the room, Ryan feels a sense of freedom and purpose, knowing that he's choosing his own happiness. He's no longer letting fear or family expectations control him, and for the first time, he feels ready to start a life that he can call his own. Later that evening he goes to Liana's place, eager to share the news. When she opens the door and sees him, there's a mixture of relief and happiness in her eyes. She knows that he's made his choice. That he's chosen her. They sit together, and Ryan tells her everything: how he stood up to his family, how he's done letting others control his life. Liana listens, her heart full as he speaks, feeling grateful that he's chosen to be with her, despite the obstacles. She takes his hand, squeezing it gently. "Thank you, Ryan. For standing up for us, for yourself. I know it wasn't easy." He smiles, his expression filled with warmth. "You were right, Liana. Life is too short to let others dictate our choices. I want to be with you, to build something real, and I don't care what anyone else thinks." They both know the path ahead won't be easy, that there will still be people who disapprove, still be challenges to face. But they're ready to face them together, side by side. They've both learned to stand up for what matters, and now, they're free to choose a future that belongs to them and no one else. In the quiet of that evening, they make a promise to each other to always be honest, to support each other, and to never let anyone or anything come between them again. It's a simple promise, but it holds a depth that neither of them has ever felt before. For the first time, Ryan and Liana feel at peace, knowing they're finally free to be together without fear or doubt. They've faced their families, their doubts, and their own fears, and come out stronger. And now, with each other, they feel ready to take on whatever challenges may come, knowing that they're no longer alone. They sit together, hand in hand, both feeling a quiet joy and a deep sense of belonging. They've chosen each other, not because it was easy, but because it was right. And with that choice comes a sense of peace, a feeling that they're finally on the path they were meant to be on. As they look ahead, they know there will be more trials, more moments that will test them, but they're ready. Because for the first time, they're not facing life alone, they're facing it together, with open hearts and a future they can build, one choice at a time. With both of them standing up to their families, Ryan and Liana feel like they're finally free to embrace their relationship openly. But they also know that this freedom comes with its own set of consequences. By choosing each other, they've gone against the wishes of their families, and that decision isn't one that will go unnoticed. Ryan's family, especially Alex, isn't ready to accept his choice. In their eyes, Liana is still an outsider, someone who could never fully belong in their world. Alex, who's always had his own ambitions within the family, sees Ryan's commitment to Liana as a direct threat to everything he's worked for. For Alex, this isn't just about family reputation, it's about power. He spent years positioning himself to take over Ryan's place, and now with Liana in the picture, he feels his grip slipping. Meanwhile, Liana's family is still reeling from her decision to stand up to them. Her parents had always believed that she would eventually give in to their wishes, that she would follow the path they had laid out for her. But now, seeing her take control of her life, they're forced to confront the reality that she's not going to be their ticket to wealth and status. It's a harsh realization, one that leaves a bitter taste in their mouths. But despite the disapproval from both sides, Ryan and Liana feel stronger than ever. They're no longer hiding their relationship, no longer afraid of what others might think. Instead, they're focused on building a life together, one that's rooted in honesty and trust. For the first time, they feel like they're choosing each other fully, without hesitation or fear. A few weeks later, Ryan decides to make it official. He invites Liana to a quiet dinner, somewhere away from the city and all the pressures of their lives. It's a simple setting, just the two of them, surrounded by the soft glow of candlelight. As they talk and laugh, Ryan realizes how much he truly values her presence, and how much she's changed his life for the better. Taking her hand, he looks into her eyes, his heart pounding as he gathers the courage to speak. "Liana, I know we've been through a lot. And I know choosing to be together hasn't been easy, but I've never been more certain about anything in my life. I want to build a future with you, a real future, one that belongs to us and no one else." Liana feels her heart swell as he speaks, her eyes filling with tears. She's never doubted her feelings for him, but hearing him say it, hearing the commitment in his voice, makes everything feel more real. She smiles, squeezing his hand as she nods. "I want that too, Ryan. More than anything." With that, Ryan reaches into his pocket, pulling out a small box. Liana gasps as he opens it, revealing a simple yet elegant ring. "Liana, will you marry me?" he asks, his voice soft but filled with sincerity. Tears streaming down her face, she nods, whispering, "Yes." It's a moment of pure joy, a commitment that feels both natural and powerful. In that instant, they both know they've made the right choice, and that their love is strong enough to withstand any challenge that comes their way. But as with all decisions, there are consequences. News of their engagement spreads quickly, and not everyone is happy about it. Alex in particular is furious. To him, this engagement represents the ultimate betrayal, a direct threat to his ambitions and his standing within the family. Driven by anger and jealousy, he decides to take matters into his own hands. In a desperate attempt to undermine Ryan, Alex starts planting rumors about Liana, spreading lies about her past and her family, and trying to turn other family members against her. He claims that Liana's only interest is in the family's wealth, and that she's manipulated Ryan for her own gain. His words are sharp and convincing, and soon, other family members begin to question Ryan's judgment, doubting whether Liana is truly the right person for him. Ryan hears about the rumors and confronts Alex, his patience finally snapping. "Enough, Alex. I know what you're trying to do, and it's not going to work. Liana is the best thing that's ever happened to me, and I'm not going to let you or anyone else come between us." But Alex doesn't back down. "You're blind, Ryan. She's only with you because of what you can give her. You're throwing everything away for someone who doesn't even belong in our world." Ryan's jaw tightens, anger flashing in his eyes. "No, Alex. I'm building a life with someone who cares about me for who I am, not for what I have, and maybe that's something you'll never understand." Their argument escalates, with Alex accusing Ryan of abandoning his family, of putting his own interests above the family's legacy. But Ryan stands firm, refusing to let Alex's words sway him. He knows the truth. He knows Liana's heart, her kindness, and her sincerity. And he's done letting others dictate what's right for him. As the argument comes to an end, Alex realizes he's lost. He knows he no longer has control over Ryan, and that his attempts to manipulate him have failed. Furious and humiliated, he storms out, leaving Ryan to pick up the pieces of his fractured family. In the weeks that follow, Ryan and Liana face more challenges. Some family members remain distant, refusing to accept their relationship, while others offer cautious support. It's a time of uncertainty and difficulty, but through it all, they remain committed to each other, standing strong in the face of criticism and judgment. Liana, too, finds herself dealing with the aftermath of their engagement. Her family, once excited about her connection to Ryan, is now bitter and resentful, unable to accept that she's chosen her own path. They feel betrayed, and angry that she's refused to fulfill their dreams of wealth and status, and they make it clear that they want nothing more to do with her. It's painful for Liana, but she knows it's for the best. She's no longer tied down by their expectations, no longer forced to live a life that isn't her own. With Ryan by her side, she feels a sense of freedom, a chance to create a future that reflects who she truly is. Despite the challenges, Ryan and Liana's love only grows stronger. They learn to rely on each other, to support each other in ways they never have before. Through every trial, every moment of doubt, they remind each other of the commitment they made, the promise to build a life that belongs to them and no one else. As they prepare for their future together, they know there will still be obstacles to overcome, still people who will doubt their love. But they're ready. They've faced their families, their own fears, and the judgment of those around them, and they've come out stronger, more certain than ever. In the quiet moments, as they look toward the life they're building together, they both feel a sense of peace and happiness. They've chosen each other against all odds, and now they're ready to face whatever comes next, hand in hand. Together they're stronger than they ever were alone, and for the first time, they feel truly free, ready to create a future that's built on love, trust, and a commitment that can't be broken. With all the obstacles they've faced, Ryan and Liana know they've chosen a difficult path. But now, for the first time, they feel like they're starting fresh. They've stood up to their families, faced the judgments and rumors, and come out stronger than ever. It's been a long road, but as they look to the future, they see a world of possibilities, free from the pressures that once held them back. They decide to have a small, intimate wedding, nothing grand or flashy, just a gathering of a few close friends who support them wholeheartedly. For Ryan, it's a break from tradition, a rejection of the formalities and expectations his family would normally insist on. But he knows that this day isn't about impressing anyone. It's about celebrating the love he's found with Liana, a love that has become the center of his life. On their wedding day, Liana walks down the aisle with quiet confidence, her eyes filled with joy as she sees Ryan waiting for her. There's a peace between them, a sense of belonging that can't be shaken. They've both come a long way, letting go of old fears and doubts, and choosing to trust each other completely. As they exchange vows, their words aren't just promises, they're a reflection of everything they've overcome and a commitment to stand by each other, no matter what. After the ceremony, they slip away from the small gathering, wanting a few moments alone. They walk together through a nearby garden, hand in hand, feeling a sense of freedom they've never known. The air is filled with the scent of fresh flowers, the sky a warm shade of twilight, and as they sit together under the fading light, they talk about their future, dreaming of the life they want to build. For the first time, they feel like they can truly breathe. There's no one left to please, no expectations to live up to, just the promise of a life they've chosen together, a life that belongs only to them. It's a simple moment, but in that simplicity they find everything they've been searching for: peace, happiness, and the assurance that they're exactly where they're meant to be. As they settle into their new life, Ryan and Liana begin to build their future together, one step at a time. Ryan starts to make changes in his work, creating a healthier balance that allows him to spend more time with Liana, focusing not just on his success, but on his happiness as well. Liana finds a renewed sense of purpose too, using her own strengths and passions to make a difference in her own way. Together, they encourage each other, support each other, and find joy in the small, everyday moments that make up their lives. But life, of course, isn't without challenges. There are still moments of doubt, still times when they have to confront the realities of being together in a world that once tried to keep them apart. But each time, they face these moments with the strength they've found in each other, remembering the journey that brought them here. One evening, as they're sitting on their porch watching the sunset, Ryan takes Liana's hand and smiles, a quiet warmth in his eyes. "You know," he says softly, "for a long time, I thought happiness was something I'd never find. I thought it was just something people talked about, something that didn't really exist." Liana smiles, leaning her head on his shoulder. "I used to think that too. But then we found each other. and now I can't imagine my life any other way." They sit in comfortable silence, watching as the sun dips below the horizon, casting a warm glow over their world. In that quiet moment, they both know they've found something truly special, something that all the obstacles, rumors, and family drama could never take away. Their love isn't perfect, but it's real, built on trust, resilience, and a promise to always choose each other, no matter what. Over time, Ryan's family starts to see the happiness that Liana brings him, and slowly they come around, realizing that their opinions and judgments never really matter. What matters is that Ryan has found someone who makes him whole, someone who loves him for who he is, not for his status or wealth. And in seeing this, they finally let go of their resistance, choosing to accept Liana as part of the family. Liana's family, too, begins to understand that her happiness is more important than their ambitions. She may never fulfill their dreams of wealth and status, but she's found something even more valuable: someone who supports her, believes in her, and brings out the best in her. They learn to respect her choices, seeing the strength she's developed and the life she's built with Ryan. As the years pass, Ryan and Liana continue to grow together, creating a life that's filled with love, laughter, and the quiet joy of knowing they've found there forever. They face each new challenge with open hearts, knowing that as long as they have each other, they can overcome anything. Their story isn't one of fairy tale perfection, but one of real, lasting love, a love that's been tested and strengthened, a love that will continue to grow as they build a future together. And in the end, that's all they ever wanted: a chance to choose each other, a chance to create a life that's theirs and theirs alone. They may have started out as two people from different worlds, but through every trial, they found a way to meet in the middle, to build something beautiful and lasting. As they walk hand in hand into the future, they both know that this is just the beginning of their story. There will be more chapters to write, more memories to create, and more challenges to face. But as long as they're together, they're ready for whatever life has in store. Because in the end, they've learned the most important lesson of all: that love isn't about perfection or appearances. It's about standing by each other, choosing each other, and building a life filled with trust, respect, and the quiet joy of knowing that you're exactly where you're meant to be. As they look toward the horizon, they both feel a deep sense of peace, knowing that their journey has only just begun.